Hi, good afternoon to everyone from the South Australian Department of Education, and thank you for tuning into our Microsoft Word virtual training session. Before we get started, I'd like to begin the training by making an acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, Microsoft acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So just a quick reminder, in today's live event, you do have the ability to turn on live captions, and you can access these by selecting the icon on your meeting controls bar, which looks like two C's bordered in a rectangle. For any reason, if you're finding that the training video looks slightly blurry or out of focus, you can try adjusting your video quality by accessing the settings cog icon and adjusting the quality from auto to the highest setting. All right, so by way of an introduction, nice to meet you everyone. My name is Gina and I will be your presenter and trainer for today's Word training session. I work as part of the training team for the Microsoft Experience Centre here in Sydney, but I'm actually really sitting now in my bedroom, which has now become my home office. For those of you who have visited the Sydney CBD, the Microsoft Experience Centre is actually a physical location located right in the centre of Pitt Street Mall. So if you do ever come by and visit the Sydney CBD, make sure to have a visit of the Experience Centre. I do believe we are open now. We were closed for the last 3 or 4 months, but back in operation. We have a lot of cool devices on show. We've got a lot of new devices that have come in. So do drop by if you come to Sydney. Now today I'm not alone. I also have here with me my wonderful friend and colleague Bill, who will be here to produce today's session. Bill, would you like to come off mute, say hello, let us know what your role is today and how our attendees can get involved with today's training?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Gina, for warm introduction. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. So it's Bill speaking, or Bilan. I will be producing the session, as Gina just mentioned. So, and my main focus area would be questions and answers panel on the right-hand side of your screen. It is by default open, but you can also open and close it by clicking the icon that looks like a chat bubble in the top right corner of your screen. So the chat bubble with the question mark. So when you open the panel or maximize it, on the left-hand side, you'll see some featured messages like greetings from us or some useful links maybe. And on the right-hand side, you will see your own questions if they have been answered privately. Now, some of your questions might be published for other people to interact. Let's say it's a very useful question and we believe the information or the answer also can be applicable for other people's experiences as well. So for those reasons, please have a look into the Ask a Question field in the bottom right corner. When you send a message, you can tick the box to make it anonymous, or if box is unticked, you can type your name, but just maybe use the first name only for privacy reasons. But also, again, remember, you can send it anonymously if you prefer as well. So the Q&A will remain open throughout the session. I think we have another 57 minutes left, so feel free to use that Q&A to take as much as you want from this session. The more you ask, the more knowledge you will get. But that's it for me. I know, Gina, you have a lot of exciting content lined up, so I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill. Okay, so let's just dive into our training now. So for today's agenda, we'll be focusing on the fundamental features of Word. So we'll check out some of the basic tools to help with writing and editing documents. Then we'll take a look at one of my favorite features and something that I use on a daily basis, and it's using styles, which also assists with creating a table of contents. Then we'll take a look at how you can collaborate on your documents with others. And finally, if we do have a bit of time left over, we'll take a look at some templates towards the end of the session. Now, something I wanted to mention before we actually dive into the demo is I understand this training, some of the attendees may be from the education side of things, or maybe you're more from the corporate side. I'd love to hear, what kind of content you'd like to learn. We do have a specific agenda that we follow, but if there was a specific feature that you wanted me to go through or maybe touch on in a real live demo, just let us know in the Q&A and we'll try our best to slot it in. All right, so with our introductory slides out of the way, let's actually now jump into our demo. So I'm just going to close my PowerPoint and hopefully everyone can see my program okay. So here we are in Word. Now, when you open up Word for the first time, you'll likely see a view somewhat similar to mine. And this is what we call the backstage view in Word. So you can see on the left-hand side of our screen, we have a number of tabs. We've got Home, New, and we also have Open. So let's just have a quick look at what each of these tabs offer. So in Home, we're able to create a blank document from scratch. But you'll notice that if you have a bit of a scroll down, you can also see a list of recommended for you documents. And these are documents that you recently opened, accessed, maybe edited. So instead of having to scrounge through your file explorer to find them, it might be easier just to access it from this backstage view. Now you can see that we even have a pinned category here. So if there's a document that you regularly access, you can actually select the pin icon next to any one of these suggested documents, and you can see that there's a little pin that appears and it says pin this item to the list. So let's go ahead and pin hotel-wide template by selecting pin. That document will now appear in this pinned category. While we're talking about pinning as well, just a little side note, a great tip that will always help you access your commonly used files is if you right-click on the Word application in your taskbar here, it shows you a list of all your recent documents that you've accessed. To be honest, I think I work with Word quite a lot. And whenever I open up my files, I rarely use the File Explorer. What I generally do is just right-click on the icon in the taskbar, and then I just select the document from this provided list here. Now, from this environment as well, you're able to pin documents, which will look something like this. So let's say this hotel-wide template is something that I'm going to be regularly editing for the next 2 months. So what I can do is just select the little pin icon next to the file name. And you can see we have this pinned category at the top. So really useful, really quick tip. And this also applies to things like PowerPoint files and also Excel spreadsheets as well. Then after Home, we also have New. And this is again where we're able to create a blank document from scratch. But another great resource in Word is the ability to access free online templates. All these tiles here are templates that you can use at your fingertips. And you can see that underneath our search bar, we also have a list of suggested categories. We have templates that may be used for things like business, maybe you're creating birthday cards, or maybe you're trying to create a flyer to find your lost budgie. Maybe you're needing templates for education related things, or maybe even things like resumes and cover letters. They're all provided here, and you can go ahead and use any one of these that you like. Finally, we also have Open, and this gives you an overview of all your available storage locations. So this includes your cloud services like OneDrive and also SharePoint, and also a list of your other locations, which is a storage on your laptop or your computer. Now that we've had a bit of a backstage overview, let's head into our Home tab, and let's just go ahead and open up a blank document. So here we are. Now, a tip to point out is that if you're looking to zoom in or zoom out of your document, you can just hold down the Control key on your keyboard and use the cursor on your mouse, which is a really quick way to zoom in and zoom out of your screen. Or alternatively, you can use the little plus and minus icons on the bottom right-hand corner, which will essentially do that same job. Now, when it comes to getting to know any Microsoft 365 app, you've probably noticed that this area at the top of our screen is consistent across all the apps, and this is what we call the ribbon. Within the ribbon, we have a number of different tabs. We have things like Home, Insert, Design, just to name a few. And in our ribbon, is where we can find all the tools that we need inside of Word. So when I'm navigating around Word today, I'll be referring to the ribbon a few times, and this simply just means this top section of my screen. Okay, so let's start from the left and take a look at the Home tab. Now, the Home tab, while it seems basic, I will just quickly go through the features here just so we can get it out of the way. So the Home tab contains a lot of useful things. We have our rich text editing features, which enables us to enhance our text. We can access things like bullet points and numbered lists in our paragraph section. And we even have things like styles. For us to really get an understanding of how some of these features work, I think it's a good idea for us to get some text on our page. So I'm just going to use a quick shortcut. Feel free to follow along today at home if you have Word up and running, or you can just follow along on my screen as well. So I'm just going to use a quick shortcut. It's just called equal rands 10. 10 represents the number of paragraphs that I want to create. You can insert whatever number that you like, and I'm just going to select enter. And this just generates some random text on my screen. And the text itself is all grammatically correct, and they're all structured, so they're actually free from any errors. So taking a quick look at some of these rich text editing features, let's quickly apply each editing feature to each paragraph. So you may have noticed that if I wanted to bolden my text, of course, just by simply selecting B, nothing has changed. This is simply because in order for us to apply any changes inside of Word, we have to let Word know where we'd like to apply the changes to. This seems quite self-explanatory for a lot of us who have been using devices and Microsoft 365 for some time now, but it is important that you select the text first. So you can either select, just a single word, click, hold and drag your cursor to select a specific sentence, or if you want to just select the whole paragraph, you can use triple click. Okay, so first paragraph, let's bolden our text. So bold is a really great way if you're looking to just add some stronger emphasis to your words. Then we have italics. Italics is probably most used when you're including quotes or maybe names of publications. Then we have underline, and this will draw the reader's eye to particular words or sentences. Now, another one of my favorites, which probably isn't as commonly used, but something that I've implemented basically whenever I'm editing any of my documents, is using strike through. And you can see that this doesn't really enhance our text in any way, but strike through is a really great tool that we can use when we're editing our work or maybe even someone else's. Now, I remember before I used strike through, I had a tendency to delete words and sentences during the editing process. And then I'd find myself at a later point in time really regretting that I deleted the text, because maybe a month passes and I realize that paragraph I wrote was actually really important and it sucks that I actually deleted it. So if you're still in the process of editing, I would recommend using strike through. Now, we are lucky that we are living in an age where we can access the version history of our files, which I'll show you how to do later on. So if you do accidentally delete something and you want to get it back later on, we can access version history. But if you want to avoid that step, then strike through is a really great alternative. Now, another one worth mentioning is being able to change case. Let's say for this paragraph, I wanted to capitalize all my text. It's really random. You might not use it daily or even weekly, but there might be a time when you're using Word and you realize you want to capitalize all your text. Now, you may have noticed that by simply just selecting the paragraph and hitting caps lock on your keyboard is not going to make it capitalized. If you want to capitalize all the text, what you can do is navigate to change case, which is this capital A and the lowercase a. By selecting the drop down here, by selecting uppercase, this will capitalize all the text that you've selected. All right, so I think that's all I'll touch on in terms of rich text editing. Next up, we have paragraph, and this is where we can find all our bullet points and numbered lists. We can also change the alignment of the text on our pages as well, from, let's say, align to the left, to the center, and to the right. So a handy little trick that I wanted to show you when it comes to using bullet points is that you can use indents, or you can create sub-bullet points under your main bullet point. So just as an example, let's say hypothetically, I'm making a to-do list for the week. So we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But let's say I wanted to create a list under Monday of the tasks that I want to accomplish. Now, I could walk the dog and I want to follow up on my Outlook emails, but you can see that this doesn't really form as a sub bullet point list underneath Monday. So a really quick tip to shift it to the right and make it into a sub bullet point list is by simply selecting the tab key on your keyboard, and this will shift everything to the right. So by hitting tab, there we go. And you can see that it's created a new custom bullet point and it now falls underneath my Monday bullet point. Similar premise, if you don't want to use the tab key on your keyboard, this icon on the top right-hand corner, which says increase indent, does the exact same job. So increase indent, and it's created that sub bullet point list again. So you can even form sub bullet point lists. So if I wanted to create another list under my Outlook emails, I can hit tab and then write up another list continuously. And that step that I've shown you with bullet points can also apply to numbered lists as well. So if I was to create a hypothetical numbered list, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the only difference when you're creating a sub bullet point list underneath a numbered list, because you can imagine that shifting 2 slightly to the right doesn't really make much sense, but you'll notice that if you select tab, it's going to use A followed by 1, and that's the kind of format that it's going to follow. All right, so after our paragraph section, we also have styles. Now, styles is undoubtedly my favorite part of Word, but I think I'll be showcasing styles in conjunction with our design tab, which we'll take a look at shortly. Another fun little tip is inside of your home tab, we also have access to dictate. So dictate uses speech recognition and it'll convert your voice into text. Now, a small caveat with dictate is that it doesn't pick up punctuation just yet. I think it's still a technology in progress. So you do need to verbalize any punctuation, so things like full stops, exclamation marks, but it's a really handy tool for accessibility purposes, or if you just want to, plot out some ideas just by speaking instead of typing. So let's give that a go now. So all I need to do is select the microphone and then it'll change into a recording symbol. Today is Tuesday and it looks like a beautiful afternoon. Full stop. I can't wait to eat my lunch, exclamation mark. I'm having fried rice and chicken, full stop. All right, there we go. So you can see already it's actually corrected grammar, and it's also added things like capital letters and even the punctuation. You may have noticed that it spelled itself out for a while, but it corrects itself automatically thanks to AI, and it capitalizes proper nouns as well. So days of the week, capital cities, names, it will correct itself automatically. So it's quite a convenient tool if it's something that you would prefer, just speaking rather than typing. All right, so if you do have any questions at all about the Home tab, or if there was a feature you'd like me to showcase, please let us know. Otherwise, next thing we'll take a look at is the Insert tab in our ribbon. Now, the Insert tab contains a range of features that we can use to insert content into our pages. So it could be things like cover pages, it could be tables, pictures, shapes, icons. Also inside the Insert tab is where we can include headers, footers, and page numbers. And we'll start adding this content once we check out design and styles. Now, another simple trick and something that I found out much too late compared to how long I've been using Word, since basically I was like 4 or 5 years old, is being able to use blank pages and page breaks. For any reason, if I wanted this paragraph to start on the next page, what I would do when I was younger is just rapidly hit enter on my keyboard, and that would shift that paragraph to the next page. But you don't actually need to do that. What you can do is place the cursor next to the paragraph that you'd like to shift to the new page, select page break, and you can see that it automatically pushes that paragraph to the next page. So, I mean, you don't waste a huge amount of time by rapidly pressing enter, but it's there if you need it. It's sort of a similar process for blank page, but what it'll do is it'll insert a blank page between these two paragraphs here. So blank page, and you can see we just have one whole page that we can now use. All right, so let's now take a look at how we can change up the look of our document. And this is by using the Design tab. And we can actually make our documents look really polished and eye-catching. And this is a feature that goes beyond, changing the color of your font or changing the size of your font or, changing the style. So the Design tab can really help you take your document to a new level. So you can add all kinds of themes, could be a professional theme or even a fun theme to stylize your document. And it takes about 3 or 4 steps. So to get an understanding of the power of the Design tab, I first wanted to show you how you can use the Design tab in conjunction with styles that we previously saw in our Home tab. Now, as we know, different paragraphs play different roles in our documents. So we use different kinds of paragraphs, things like titles, headings, subheadings, picture captions, to help us and our readers make sense of our documents. And typically, we would want to format each kind of paragraph consistently. So for example, we may want all the ordinary body text in a smaller and lighter font, but we want the title of our document to be much larger and heavier. So in Word, styles are a collection of formatting instructions, and you can use styles to format the paragraphs inside of your document. But it's not only limited to the design, and I'll show you that just a bit later on. So for instance, if I wanted to create a heading for this document, I would say the power of video, and it would make sense for me to apply heading 1. Oh, actually, I think there's a title. That the title heading would suit for the heading that I just created. So I'm just going to actually delete this text for now, and I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste in some text that I created in advance for this session, and I'm just going to pop it into my document here. Let me see if I can change that. So merge formatting. Yeah, I selected merge formatting because the bold rich text editing didn't carry across. But you can see that this specific document now contains a mixture of random text, but I wanted to point out that we also have several kinds of paragraphs. What do I mean by this? So for instance, the fundamentals of Word would become the title of my document. We also have module 1. This will form a main heading, or maybe an analogy would be it's like a chapter. Then within a chapter or a module, you would have subtopics or subheadings, and that would be things like 1.1 and 1.2. And it's a similar premise for module 2, the ribbon. So module 2 would be a new chapter or a new heading, and then 2.1, and also, well, I don't have a 2.2, but let's just say we had 2.2. That would form as a subheading under module 2. Now, visually, this looks okay, but it might not be the most effective way to display our information. And I want to break apart the paragraphs so that each paragraph's formatting is more consistent. And I kind of want to distinguish between this heading and that heading, because right now I know that 1.1 logically falls under module 1, but in terms of its visual appearance, they look way too similar. So I want to change that up. So if I navigate to the Design tab in my ribbon and I select on any of these designs, you can tell immediately that nothing really changes. At most, there might be a slight change in the font style, the font size, but really not much else. Now, this is where the power of styles really comes into play. So I'm going to navigate back to my Home tab, and I'm going to start formatting my paragraphs to match these given styles in this suggestion here. So you can see that by selecting the drop down in styles, we have a number of different options. We have things like heading 1, heading 2, title, which we saw before. We have even things like subtitles and strong and quotes and subtle references if needed. So let's just start applying some basic styles. So it kind of makes sense that for my fundamentals of Word, heading at the top, I'm going to style it as title. There we go. Beautiful change already. Then for module 1 introduction, it makes sense for us to style this as heading 1. And you can kind of imagine heading or heading 1, heading 2, sort of as like chapters and sub-chapters. So you may be wondering what's the difference between heading 1 and heading 2? And you can tell already that heading 2 is slightly smaller. So heading 2 is more of like a subheading under heading 1. So I'm going to select heading 1. There we go. And for 1.1, makes sense for us to use heading 2. There we go. So and I'm just going to do that for the rest of my document. So 1.2 is heading 2. Then for module 2, which is kind of like a new chapter, I'm going to apply heading 1, heading 2 for 2.1, heading 2 for 2.2. Let's shift this to a new page. Module 3, again, would be heading 1, heading 2 for 3.1, and heading 2 for 3.2. I did want to point out that you can continuously use headings. So you also even have heading 3 available. So let's say 3.3 is talking about dictate. I'm just going to add maybe 2 paragraphs of text. So for 3.3, I'm going to apply heading 3. And you can see that the formatting is slightly different because it's now no longer centered, but that's okay. So you may be thinking, what is the purpose of this? It looks okay, but it's nothing really life-changing. The formatting's okay. So this is where the design tab really shows its magic. So now if I navigate back to my design tab, and if I start hovering my cursor over all the different designs that are available, you can see because we added all the different styles, it also changes up the look of our document completely. Now, some of these designs you may like, some of them might be a little bit basic, but I personally am a really big fan of the shaded design, and I basically use this for all my documents. So you can see that it basically differentiates the different headings based on colors, and even for, let me see if I can put this on a new page, or heading 3, which I added earlier, it looks something like this. So you can see that the subheadings are really clear, and that's usually the most important for me. All right, but the use of styles, it's not only limited to making our document look a little bit fancier. It's also really useful when it comes to navigating through our document. Or actually, before I show you how to do that, you may have noticed that the design that I selected, it's kind of like a blue theme with a certain kind of font. This is easily customizable as well. And the way you can do that is by navigating to themes on the top left-hand corner. And you can see that we have a number of themes that we can pick from. So hovering your cursor on any one of these given themes will update it. And it's just up to personal preference, and you can use whichever one that you like. So I tend to use Gallery. I like the GT font. I think it's the GT font, or Gill Sans MT. Just completely made up my own unique font. But you can see that it's got a really nice formatting, and I just think the font is really clear to read. Now, on top of that, still, I'm not a big fan of this magenta theme that's automatically been applied. So if I want to change the color palette of the design, I can just navigate to the quadrant in colors on the top right-hand corner. And then by selecting any one of these given colors, I can change it to whatever I like. And usually I just go for Office 2007. But you can go for something like yellow, orange, or red, violet, or red or violet if you prefer a more brighter color. But I'm just going to stick with this one here. Okay, so you can kind of see already how easy it was to change up the look of our document, and it takes about 3 steps. You just got to apply the styles to the different areas of your file, and then you got to pick the design that you like. You can change the theme of the design to whatever one that you prefer, and you can also change the color by using this quadrant here. All right, but using styles isn't only for making our documents look a little bit fancier, but it's really powerful when it comes to navigating through our document. So let's imagine hypothetically that our Fundamentals of Word module spanned over 70 pages. Right now, it's only 2 pages, but let's just pretend that we have around 15 to 20 modules that we've created. Now, for anyone who is viewing this file, anytime they wanted to find module 15, let's say module 15 is about using cover pages, they would have to scroll through my 70-page document just to find module number 15. But it's a bit time consuming to scroll down throughout the whole document just to find a specific module. And this is where the power of the navigation pane comes in. So what I'm going to do is navigate to the View tab in my ribbon. And underneath our Show section here, I'm going to check Navigation pane. By selecting Navigation pane, you can see that this pane has appeared on the left-hand side of my screen. But what's more useful is that each heading that I used from Styles also appears. And it's even indented the different headings that I used. So you can see that modules 1, 2, and 3 are starting from the very left. Any subheadings that I created is indented slightly to the right, so I know visually that these fall under the main heading. And even subheadings that I created, why did I use 3.3? I think I must have been, apologies. So 3.2.1 is what I was trying to demonstrate here, not 3.3. So we know that 3.2.1 falls under 3.2 paragraph. And you can see that in our navigation pane as well, you can see that dictate falls under paragraph. Now, that's all fine, but the navigation pane is so useful because now instead of me having to scroll through all the way down to module number 15, what I can do is just select the navigation pane and select the specific heading that I've applied, and Word will take me directly to the location that I'm selecting. So you can see how useful this would be in a scenario where the document spans, 80 to 100 pages. All I need to do is refer to the navigation pane. I can figure out what heading, what topic I'm after. Then I can select the subheading and Word will take me directly there. All right, so we have reached the half-hour mark. So I'm going to just take a quick break just to check in with you, Bill, to see if we had any questions or if you want to add anything at all.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gina. I was actually going to ask you about the navigation pane because I really enjoy this one myself, and also makes it easier to navigate intuitively, I would say, in the document, because words can be sometimes thousands of pages, and with navigation pane, it looks like just a one document or one story. Another thing I really enjoyed, Gina, was the changing the color of the page. So I've set for myself in the design tab, I believe, orange color for the document, and this makes so much fun. Maybe you'd have a minute to showcase that as well, but please don't try the gradient choice. No, on the right hand side, if you click I think it's page color on the very top right in here. Yeah, here we go. I think this just completely changes the view of the document. Not sure if I'll be using it on the daily basis, but I think for something like invitations or handouts, something to try, quickly change the design. And we did get a question from Simone asking if there are any other quick shortcuts, such as equal rand 10 that we use quite often in demonstrations. I would share maybe some of the short keys I use, like Control S to save the document, or Control plus A to highlight everything as a selection. It works both in Word and in Excel. And Control N to create a quick new document. That's things that I use most oftenly. Maybe you have some shortcuts, some other shortcuts, Gina, that you use. Giving it back to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill. I think shortcuts is one of those things that is kind of personal to everyone because everyone uses Word a little bit differently. So I remember I was at a point where I really needed to find a keyboard shortcut to center my text because I think I was creating a lot of headings, but I wanted the headings to be centered. But for some reason, I know it's such a small thing, but every time I wanted to center my text, I would have to select the text after writing it out. Then I would have to navigate to center at the top, and that's how I would change it. But I discovered just do a quick internet search that by using this keyboard shortcut Control E, that automatically centers the text. So it saved me from having to highlight the text after I wrote it, navigating to the top. So all I had to do was actually just center my text first by Control E and just write up the text that way. But there are so many keyboard shortcuts in Word. Of course, I think there's like over 100 of them. But at the end of the day, if you're kind of doing something and there's a repetitive action that you're doing and you're finding that you're using your mouse to complete the task, chances are there might be a keyboard shortcut that you can use. So I would just recommend searching it up on the net, and you might be able to integrate it into your day-to-day. Something like using the tab key as well to make sub bullet points. That's something that I actually found out by myself, because for some reason, anytime I wanted to create a sub bullet point list, navigating to increase indent every single time just felt like such a chore. So that tab key is something that I use religiously.
Another, Gina, thank you for those insights. Another thing maybe that can work in this case, Simone and Gina, and that indeed as well, could be the quick access toolbar. I think this is just a magic for me. I use it in the PowerPoint quite often because there are a few different buttons I need from different tabs. So by clicking on any of the option, if you click anything on any button on the tab, Gina, you will be able to add it to a quick access toolbar. So let's say comments or something. Most of them are available for quick access toolbar. Yeah, just right click. And you can add it to the quick access toolbar, which will be below the tab itself if you choose. Yep, or on the top in your case. Yeah. This is just a quick way for you to organize some of the tools that you use quite often, maybe every day. Maybe you are planning to work in Word with a specific intention for a few hours, and you want to kind of assemble your own tab, I would say. But yeah, just another insight. But back to you, Gina. Happy for you to continue. We have another 23 minutes left. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. So I learned a lot from my training sessions. That quick access was something that I didn't know of. So now I know. So by just right-clicking on a specific icon, then selecting Add to Quick Access Toolbar, it will now appear in this top section of your screen over here. All right, so where were we up to? So we've seen how we can access the navigation pane through styles. Another advantage of using styles is being able to create a table of contents. Now, in order for us to create a table of contents, I think, ideally we wanted to make sure that it goes at the beginning of our document. So I'm going to actually navigate to my Insert tab in my ribbon, and I'm just going to use my trusty page break icon that we went through before. So you can see how easy that was. I saved about 15 seconds of my life just rapidly pressing enter. I just selected page break. Now to insert a table of contents, you can actually navigate to the References tab in your ribbon, and Table of Contents will appear on the very left-hand side. So it's going to be the first icon from the left. And when you select the drop-down in Table of Contents, there are a few different ones that you can select. I personally just go with Automatic Table 2. I don't really see the huge difference between 1 and 2. I think it's just that 2 calls it a table of contents, which just for some reason seems a bit more unprofessional. So I'm just going to select Automatic Table 2. There we go. And you can see that we now have this beautiful table of contents inserted into our page. Really mirrors what we're seeing in the navigation pane, because we've used heading 1s, 2, and 3, it also includes the heading format. So it indents things slightly to the right, just so visually we can see that, yep, 3.2.1 dictate is part of the 3.2 subheading. Now, I wanted to touch on table of contents because there were a few things that I had to get my head around when I inserted table of contents for the first time. There are manuals online, but a lot of this I had to figure out on my own. And the first thing that I realized was when I was making changes to my table of not to my table of contents, but I was making changes to my document, they wouldn't update inside the table of contents. So what I mean by this is, let's say module 3 right now, the home tab starts on page number 3. Okay, so let's just navigate to module 3. And let's just pretend that we're adding more content for module 2. And for some reason, we need to insert several blank pages. And you can see that module 3 now starts on page number 5. Okay, but if I navigate, so the reason, that's all right, let's leave it there. So if I navigate back into my table of contents, you can see that it hasn't been updated yet. So it's still showing that module 3 starts on page number 3, even though we know that it starts on page number 5. So it's really important that you update your table of contents every once in a while before you decide to print off or send your file to someone else. And the way you can update your table of contents is by selecting the table of contents. And you can see that at the top over here, you can see this exclamation mark and it says update table. And this will be shown automatically anytime you make any edits to your documents. So by selecting update table, you'll receive a prompt and it says Word is updating the table of contents. Select one of the following options. So you can select to either update page numbers only, or you can update the entire table, which I think is going to be relevant if you're adding different headings or extra headings or chapters. So in our case, I'm just going to select update page numbers only, and hopefully our module 3 should now update. And I think I did delete a page earlier because it's only showing that we have 4 pages. So hopefully it's going to show page 4. So I'm going to update page numbers, and module 3, the home tab, there we go, has now changed from page number 3 to page number 4. All right, so just something I wanted to point out there in case you created a table of contents for the first time and you're seeing that it's not updating automatically. You just want to make sure that you're updating it as you're going along. Now this is really bugging me, so I'm just going to actually delete the headings. So there we go. Now you may have noticed that if you're finding this kind of issue where you're seeing a gap, it looks like it's detected some heading even though it doesn't exist. It's because a heading's been applied automatically. So what you can do is just either delete it or just apply the normal style, and you can see that it's going to remove itself from the navigation pane. You also may have noticed that because we added a specific design, we also added a theme and also a color scheme, that it's also automatically been applied to the table of contents as well. And this is going to be reflected when you add different kinds of elements to your document. Could be a table, could be a chart, could be a cover page. The color scheme that you selected will be reflected in all the different elements that you add. So if I change my document to, let's say, the yellow color instead, it's going to update my table of contents as well. So it just really makes formatting and designing a document a lot easier. All right, so next thing I wanted to showcase before we head into sharing is adding a cover page. So, I forgot to mention, so I just, apologies, I feel like I'm going to keep going back and forth. So I have gone ahead and added a table of contents, and you can see the page numbers, but what's the point of seeing page numbers when you can't actually see them on the page itself? So if you want to insert page numbers, you can navigate to insert page number here, and you can add page numbers either to the top or the bottom of your document. In my case, let's just add it to the top right hand corner, and you can see that the page numbers have been inserted at the top over here. All right, so in terms of inserting a cover page, I can navigate to the Insert tab in my ribbon. I'm going to navigate to Cover Page, and we can pick whichever one that we like. I'm just going to select the Austen cover page, and it looks something like this. Our next step is you can fill in the cover page details. Now, something cool that I discovered with cover letters, as I mentioned, is that it reflects the design that you've picked. So if I navigate to the Design tab, then Themes, you can select by hovering over the different themes. It also reflects the changes to my cover page. So it changes the color and even the font style. So you don't need to worry about having to edit each element after you've written your document. You don't have to change your cover page and change the font in your document. By simply applying a theme and a design, it does all the work for you. So I'm just going to stick it to my gallery theme as before. And you can see that because the gallery theme's automated color is magenta, I'm just going to change it back to Office, and it updates my cover page as well. All right, so we can now change the document title. We can call it Fundamentals of Word. and name. I'll pop in my name here. And there we go. We now have this really professional document with very few steps. So Word is not complicated at all. I remember one of the hardest things that I found when, I started handing in assignments and just, doing things at work was trying to find ways to make my documents look really nice, because I myself am not a graphic designer by any means. I have a gender studies major, so I am not the type of person that can even pick complementary colors. That's my sister. She's really great at matching the color of the walls to our couch. I have no skill whatsoever. Once I figured out how to use the design tab, styles, themes, and colors, don't need to worry about that ever again. So hopefully these tips have been useful for you as well. Okay, so we have gone through a number of features in terms of editing our document. If there was a specific feature that you wanted me to touch on, please let us know in the Q&A, because we do have around 15 minutes before we finish up. But one of the last things that we do like to mention with all our training sessions is being able to share our files with our colleagues. Now, some of you may already be familiar with this feature, but if not, it's a really great thing for us to integrate into this training. Now, before I do anything, I wanted to preface that if you're sharing a file with a fellow colleague, it could be your family member, it could be whoever, but if you're sharing a file with anybody, the file must be saved to OneDrive, because OneDrive is the platform that enables the collaboration to happen. So you may have noticed that throughout this training, I haven't saved my document whatsoever. That's okay, because even if you don't automatically save your document, Word really tries its best to help you recover it. So you can see that I haven't named the document anything, I haven't saved it to a specific location. So in order for me to share the file, I can navigate to share on the top right-hand corner. And you can see the first step it's asking me to do is upload the document to some location. So I'm going to select the demo environment that we're working in. So I'm going to save it to OneDrive Contoso. And I'm just going to call this Fundamentals of Word Manual. All right, so in terms of uploading the document to OneDrive, it can take up to a few seconds to half a minute, really depends on your internet connection. But after the file has been uploaded, you're going to be taken to a page where you can decide the link settings and then also decide who you want to share the file to. So this is an interesting error that I've never received, so let me try that again. Sometimes it has its moments. Ooh, what's going on here? Ah, that's interesting. So I can see that the screen's appearing, but for some reason it's got a black screen. Well, best thing to do in this kind of situation is to just simply try reopen the document again. So I'm going to see if I can navigate to Megan's OneDrive. Okay, so here we are, got the File Explorer. Let's open up the Fundamentals of Word Manual and let's try share it out one more time. Deary me, that's an interesting issue. Okay, let me try another document. Could be the document that I'm working with.
While you're trying this, Gina, one thing, I have opened the Microsoft Word on my computer, so you have a chance to see this embarrassing design I've made on my screen, and I can showcase the sharing option if it doesn't work for you. But also in the Q&A and with everyone, I just want to share something exciting that myself and Gina have learned recently. The clipboard, the extended clipboard you can use. So many of us do copy paste things from sometimes from Teams to documents, sometimes from documents to Teams, and so on. And using the extended clipboard, you can do it with 25 items. So you now can just remember, or your Windows can remember for yourself, all the 25 last items that you have copied, and you'll be able to use them again anytime you want. So to activate the functionality, just click Windows plus V icon. And the clipboard, the extended clipboard, will start working for you and remembering things. Let me know, Gina, if you want me to go ahead and showcase that document and sharing option. Oh, it looks like it works for you, so I'm giving back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for stepping in, Bill. So it looks like it's an issue with my monitor. I'm actually just had to reshare my screen, so I'm currently looking at my main laptop screen. So let me show that again. So whenever you select share, you're going to receive this window after you upload your document to OneDrive. And this is going to be the same no matter what account you're using. But really the key thing I wanted to point out is this depends on your organization. but you'll have sort of a default share setting. Mine is anyone with the link can edit, but your one might say something like South Australian Department for Education. So anyone with the link may potentially even be grayed out for you. If it is, please let us know in the Q&A so we can update it in our file and we can make sure to mention that in our next training. So for you, something like people in SA Gov with the link can edit. Now, there are minor differences between these options, and I'll quickly explain them now. So if you select people in your organization with the link can edit, in my case, it's Contoso. This option basically means that if I share this file out with my colleague, Bill could grab the link to my file, then share it out with our colleague, Michael, then Michael could share it with Rosalie, and then Rosalie could share it with Jean. And the shared setting can really keep on going. As long as my colleagues are sharing it to someone within my organization, everyone has access to my file. In some cases, that may be okay, but you may be working on a document that's quite confidential. Maybe it's a contract, maybe it's a secret project that you're working on, and you want to make sure that no one has access to that file except the people inside your project. If that document is confidential, what I would recommend is selecting specific people. That way, only the people you list, the email addresses that you insert, only those users will be able to access the file. So even if they try to grab the link to the file and share it out with another user, that user will not be able to access the file. Then you may be wondering, what does anyone with a link mean? So anyone with a link, this includes people who may be outside your organization. So if this setting is enabled, that means if I shared it with Bill and then Bill shared it with our colleague Michael, Michael might send it to one of his clients who are actually external to Microsoft. So that's probably the least secure. So we always do recommend here at Microsoft that specific people is probably the best option, just so you can make sure you can decide who exactly has access. So after you decide the link settings, you can also check or uncheck whether you want to allow things like editing. You can also toggle on or off open in review mode only. So open in review mode only, by hovering your cursor over the information icon, it says in review mode, people can only leave comments and suggest changes to the document, but they can't actually make any in-text changes to the document itself. So if you just want someone to review it without making any changes, then maybe open in review mode would be useful. If you uncheck allow editing, you can also prevent the recipient from downloading the document entirely. But in our case, we do want the full co-authoring experience. So I'm going to select allow editing, then select apply. And next step is to insert the fellow employees who are going to work on my manual with me. So let's invite Adele. And let's also invite Alex to work on this file. All right, so I'm going to send that through. Okay, and let's see if we can try simulate sort of a real-time co-authoring environment. I'm just going to reshare my screen to the correct one once more. Okay, and we'll drag it into view. Thank you very much. Okay. Whoop. There we go. So hopefully everyone can see my monitor okay. All right, so I'm actually logged into Adele and Alex on an alternate device. So I'm just going to see if I can get them to join this file. Oh, actually, well, this might be well, it's a bit of a segue into another platform, but if you are looking to access a file that your colleagues have just shared with you, this is kind of dipping our toes into our OneDrive 100 session, but I think it's just useful to point out anyway. If you have access to your company OneDrive and your colleagues just told you, hey, I've just shared this Word document with you, can you open it up and work on it with me? One of the fastest ways that you can get that file open is navigating to onedrive.com, navigating to shared, and under the shared with you tab, that file is going to appear at the very top. And you can see that I'm actually in Adele's account at the moment, and it's saying that the fundamentals of Word manual were shared by Megan less than a minute ago. So I can actually open up the document and view it inside the OneDrive environment. All right, so once Adele has joined that file with me, I'll actually be able to see. So the first indicator that someone is working on a file with you is that their icon will appear on the top right-hand corner of your file. And you can see already that the changes are immediate. So it says others are here. 2 other people have this document open. So if I hover my cursor over each of the icons, it gives me an overview of who's in the file with me and exactly where they're working. So let me see if I can get Adele to go ahead and apply some changes to the document. So I'm just going to scroll down. And I actually go to the location. Yes. So a handy feature, just because I had to shift Adele's cursor to a new location, is that if they're working on another area, it gives you an overview of what page they're working. But on top of that, I'm actually able to go directly to where Adele's working on in my file. So by selecting go to location, you saw before how I was rapidly scrolling through just to find Adele's name. You don't need to do that because you can just select the profile, select go to location. And now it's taking me exactly where Adele's working, and any changes that Adele is making will be updated in real time. Now you can see just how convenient a feature like go to location would be in the context of, say, something like PowerPoint, because in a PowerPoint presentation, there might be around 50 to 100 slides. Instead of me having to scroll through, 50 or so slides, all I need to do is select go to location, and PowerPoint will take me directly to the location where I'm working. Another feature that you might want to integrate as well is if you're trying to sort of communicate in real time as you're editing the document, you can use something like Teams or whatever messaging platform that you're using. But a really fast way is to navigate to the Review tab in your ribbon, select New Comment, and I can actually target my colleagues' attention at specific areas of my document. So what I can do is use @mention. So I can write @Adele. Oh, let's see, Adele Vance. There we go. Please edit this document. Actually, please edit this paragraph and add a photo. Thanks. Then Adele will actually receive a notification saying that I've tagged her in this comment, and then she'll be able to edit this specific area of the file. All right. Oh, I did mention, so before we wrap up though, I did mention earlier that I would show you how to access the version history of a file. Let's say a few months pass and you realize that there was a specific paragraph or a table that you created, which is now deleted, but you want to make sure that you can get it back instead of having to create it from scratch. You can see that Alex has gone ahead and added a comment. Thank you so much, Alex. So if you're trying to access the version history of a file, you can select the name of the file at the very top of your screen, select version history, and this will appear as a pane on the right-hand side, and this will allow you to open up and restore previous versions that you've created. For any reason, if you're looking to track exactly who has access to your file, again, I'm kind of dipping into OneDrive, but I think it's just useful just for general knowledge purposes. But let's say a year passes and I forget exactly who has access to this manual, and I want to be able to see who has access, and I might want to revoke access for certain users as well. You can actually do that inside the OneDrive environment. So I'm just going to quickly log into OneDrive here. And this goes for any of the files that you currently have inside your OneDrive. Feel free to open up your OneDrive and check out some of the features that I'm about to go through. But if you actually navigate to OneDrive, everything's just taking a while today. I haven't received as many glitches as I have in this session. Hopefully the experience isn't too cluttered. But if you actually navigate to Shared inside your OneDrive and you navigate to Shared by You, where is the file that I created? What was it called? Fundamentals of Word, I think it was. Well, any file that you've shared with another user, let's say I wanted to see who has access, I can select the ellipsis next to the file name. Oh, it's a bit of a thing. I had good intentions to show you this feature, but it may not even be working. You can select the ellipsis next to the document name, and you'll be able to manage access. Looks like it's not going to work for me today. Maybe OneDrive's trying to remind me that I really need to keep this training contained inside Word, so it's trying to let me know. So I won't be able to show you, but you'll be able to navigate to Shared by You and revoke access that way. All right, so I have gone a little bit over time, so I'm just going to quickly check in with you, Bill, to see if we had any final questions before we wrap up.
Thanks, Gina. No, we are doing well. Thanks everyone for staying with us. Looks like we have a very good retention today. Happy for you to wrap up the session. Back to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm just going to showcase a few slides before we wrap up today's session. Now, with all our training sessions here at Microsoft, we always like to talk about our next steps. So what are our next steps for using Word? So to definitely download the application if you haven't already and check out some of the features that we went through today. We'd also love to hear what features you like most in Word. So we can always learn from this training and see what features you'd like us to showcase for next time. Finally, if you'd like to learn more tips and tricks, you can always check out support.microsoft.com/Word to find more information on how you can get the most out of this program. So just a reminder, this session is being recorded and will be available on demand for the next 6 months. So in case you may have colleagues who weren't able to attend this session today, or if you'd like a refresher on some of the things that we go through, you can always use the original meeting link to revisit today's training. However, before we wrap up today's session, we'd also love to hear your feedback and comments and any tips you may have for improving our session. So if you'd like to leave a comment or review, please head to our survey, aka.ms/DOE261021, and Bill has gone ahead and popped that link into the live event Q&A. It's a 6-question survey, shouldn't take more than 30 seconds, completely anonymous, and I would really appreciate your feedback. But with that being said, that brings an end to our Word training session for today. We will keep the Q&A open for the next few minutes in case any final questions do come through. Thank you everyone so much for joining me this afternoon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. We hope to train with you again soon. Bye for now.